the Day of Reckoning. That has a nice ring to it, I must say. I like the idea of this card, man. I certainly do. I'm very much looking forward to it. Of course, we had a kickoff press conference. It was kind of surreal, to see all these fighters in one place. So many top level heavyweights was really something. In case you haven't heard my talk with G-Man yesterday, he was kind enough to have me on the channel yet again, helping me to get over that 2,000 subscriber mark, which we have done. So thank you to you guys who have joined the club and subscribed, and thank you for G-Man, of course, for having me on the channel yet again. If you want to see that whole hour-long discussion that me and him had on this card, I'd signpost you to his channel. It's over there. It's a bloody good live stream, if I do say so myself. But I just want to give my initial impressions on some of the interesting fights on this card, because I think there are plenty of intriguing fights. It's not going to be the most in-depth technical breakdown. It's just going to be my initial thoughts overall and how I see these fights. And also some interesting developments from yesterday's press conference. So kicking off with Anthony Joshua versus Otto Wallin. Just like the fight as a whole, it could be better, but it could be a hell of a lot worse. And many people asking the question, as they should and rightly so, how do you get Joshua and Wilder fighting on the same card but not against each other? It is a little bit of a head scratcher. I hear people are saying that. However, it's just what we have. We can ask that question, but unfortunately, or regardless of whether you ask that question, these fights are going ahead, seemingly. There's still time, but these are the fights that are penciled in. And to be honest, I see Joshua versus Valene as a very intriguing fight. We know that Anthony Joshua is in a strange place right now where, yeah, he's back to winning ways, but he has looked shell-shocked. That's how I describe it. He looks like someone who's paralyzed. He's constantly, he's battling with his demons from those defeats. And it's seemingly a long road back for him. And therefore, Joshua, despite his ability, despite, his prior form, because Joshua is still a very good fighter with plenty of ability, his mind seems to be holding him back a little bit. And so there's a degree of danger in almost every fight. We saw against Robert Helenius that Helenius, yeah, big guy, not useless, but maybe Joshua's mind was kind of getting the better of him and maybe he was just a step behind or wasn't as sharp as he should have been because of that paralysis by analysis. Against Otto Wallin, he can't afford to do that. This is definitely a step up. Otto Wallin is a tricky customer. He's a big guy himself. He's a southpaw. He's very slippery. Otto Wallin is someone who I feel is a good all-rounder. He's not amazingly quick or tremendously powerful or, got the IQ like a heavyweight Floyd Mayweather, but he does a bit of everything. And it's those handy guys which, if you're not switched on, if you're not on your P's and Q's, they can turn you over. That being said, of course, these are just my initial thoughts. I am still siding with Joshua. I think Joshua will get the job done. But if, December 23rd arrives and we're seeing Otto Wallin maybe get a points decision, like a close UD or split decision, that wouldn't surprise me. However, I'm thinking that Joshua will maybe be able to get to Otto Wallin. But it's definitely going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how stylistically Joshua approaches this fight, because another development is that he's teamed up with Ben Davison. And now, I said to G-Man yesterday, I'm scratching my head at this. I don't know why he's teamed up with Davison all of a sudden. Not because I don't rate Davison. I think Davison's a good trainer. I think he's actually kind of underrated. But Joshua's only just started to gel with Derek James. So why the switch up all of a sudden? The only thing I can maybe glean from it is that Joshua is a kind of personality whereby he's an overthinker by his own admission. And typically with overthinkers, there's this desire to optimize. And now optimization on paper seems like a good thing. However, it gets to a point in certain aspects in life, and I think boxing's no different, where you just have to say, you know what, no more. I'm going to kind of double down. I'm going to rely on what I have right now. and I'm going to try and get the job done. With this optimization comes a fear of missing out. You're always thinking, oh, I could do with this advice. Oh, I need this guy in my corner. And what do we know when that happens? Too many cooks spoil the broth. That's how I see it anyway. Obviously, I'm not in Joshua's head. I'm not a psychologist. Just my opinion, my interpretation of it. I think Joshua has maybe spent some time around Ben Davison, and maybe Ben Davison has got a certain philosophy or certain ideas that maybe Joshua wasn't necessarily getting from Derek James, and that's Joshua's, overthinking mind. His optimization cap has come on. I've got to hire this guy now. Joshua's a sponge, he's a learner. He has a desire to learn because he understands how it would benefit him. However, it just gets to a point where you can be overloaded and then you're thinking too much. This trainer said that thing. And the other trainer said this thing. I feel I should do this. What do I do? You have to rely on that instinct a bit more. But hey, that's on a bit of a tangent. Joshua's behaviour, I know that's a bit of a talking point at the press conference. A lot of people pointing out, trying to interpret that. Joshua's one of these fighters who's very much under the microscope. He has a particular personality, certain quirks, and people just can't help but try and analyse what he says and does. And mate, I do it as well. It is quite intriguing. Joshua seemed like he was on the defensive a little bit. And I think that's to be expected because, looking at it from AJ's perspective, at that press conference yesterday, he was the highest achieving fighter. He's the former two-time unified champion. He's the guy that many people credit for kind of bringing a lot of life back into the heavyweight division. I know people take issue with that, but just cast your mind back to late 2015, 2016. Joshua was the one doing big numbers. Joshua was the one who, over in the UK, he was getting people interested in boxing. I tell you that for a fact. If you deny it, you either weren't there or you got some kind of agenda against him. That was it. Tyson Fury, yeah, he beat Klitschko, but Tyson Fury wasn't drawing a crowd. People used to laugh at Tyson Fury even when he was champion. People didn't take him seriously. And I know some of the Fury diehards are kind of try and convince you, oh, I was taking Fury seriously. No, you weren't. A lot of these people jumped on the Fury bandwagon after the first Wilder fight in 2018. Before that, Joshua was the main man in the UK. I tell you that for a fact. But now we've seen a bit of a fall from grace. Obviously, AJ's taken some losses. And even before he took losses, he was looking vulnerable. And that was part of the excitement. But people were starting to lose faith in Joshua. And now he's kind of just seen as any other heavyweight. And he really is. He's a contender, but out of that entire room, he's got the best body of work. It's not Wilder. It's not Joseph Parker. It's not Daniel Dubois. It's not Jarrell Miller. Yet he's, I don't know, maybe he feels like he's not getting the distinction that maybe he deserves. There's distinction from the rest of them. And on top of that, you got a couple of guys who are present who they haven't been shy of saying some colourful things about Joshua. Wilder was in attendance. Jarrell Miller was in attendance. And Wilder was very placid. He was very tame yesterday. We know he can be a bit wild, as his name suggests. But of course, Jarrell Miller, I'll talk about Jarrell Miller in a separate video, but him and AJ don't like each other. And he knows how to get under AJ's skin. Whether it will amount to anything, should they ever fight, we'll have to see. But AJ doesn't like this guy. And I feel like AJ probably anticipated that. And he was like, you know what? These guys are going to try something. It's just a matter of time. And I think he was kind of bracing mentally for it. And that's why he was maybe a bit on edge. Or not on edge, but just a bit sharp, a bit sharp yesterday. There was his face-off with Otto Wallin. There's a lot of familiarity there. Otto Wallin, and AJ fought twice in the amateurs. They've sparred. There's familiarity there. Could be good, could be bad. I think this fight is really a plus or minus because the pluses are AJ's familiar with Otto Wallin, so there's not so much ambiguity. He's familiar with his style. He probably has a decent gauge on what Otto Wallin can do. However, it's not really great preparation for subsequent fights. A potential Wilder fight or a Fury fight, maybe. It's not great prep. And on top of that, Otto Wallin's very confident. He's a very confident character himself. AJ was trying his smack talk, and AJ's not the best talker, and Wallin was just kind of smiling at him. Had his big Swedish grin on his face. So it's interesting dynamic. I'm looking forward to this card, and I think this fight is good. These are just my initial thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below.